Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the SugarCube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to continue talking about my current project of coding the combat system for a viewer's game. In particular, I'd like to talk about how I have added another order to the game. The player character can give a companion another order, and if that attempt is successful, then the companion will act on that order. And the name of the order is Regroup, which is this one here. Before we go any further, I will say briefly that I have laid out, I've moved the passages around and laid them out in a slightly more logical way. So we have the sort of the beginning of the setup, which goes from here essentially right. Then we have the whose go is it, where we decide where the program looks at which character is acting next, and it splits based on what type that is. So it splits into player character, companion, and enemy. And then I've got all the passages grouped by which one they relate to. So these ones all relate to the player character. These ones all relate to the companions. Oops. There's more for the companions because they can be under the influence of different orders, and so they will be acting differently. This one, PC side attacks, is sort of partway between player character and companion because it applies to both. And then similarly, we've got all the enemy ones down here. And then we've got the these ones which aren't currently used, but which are for future options, are sort of off to one side. We have story caption, which deals with the sidebar. That's kind of off to one side, but it's a little bit easier to see this particular set of passages. It's a little bit easier to see which one they relate to. And then all of these passages will eventually lead to the next action, and then possibly these passages that relate to checking whether the combat is over. The one that we're going to mostly talk about today is Regroup. The reason this one is over here is it's the fourth order. There's charge, there's another two, and then there's Regroup. And so I'm planning to have the passages relating to orders 2 and 3 sort of in here, so they're in order and a bit easier to find. Regroup is a lot simpler than charge. In fact, we'll only have to spend this one video talking about it, whereas we spent several videos talking about the charge order. So what Regroup says is move to the same range band as the player character if you're not already in it. And then if you are in the same range band as the player character, attack if you can, which I've interpreted as meaning that it attacks as per default behavior, but that they won't move forward or back. If they pick an attack that they can't use, they'll just stand there and skip their action. So most of the text, most of the new code is in this passage, but there is a little bit in some others. Specifically, and let's zoom in a little. Okay. In companion, we've already seen, well, they stand up if they're prone. If they are subject to order 1, they go to the charge passage. And then I've left a gap here for the second and third orders when we do them. And we have the equivalent of this, but for the fourth order. If $com, square bracket, $ini underscore who, n square bracket 5, n square bracket is equal to 4. That is the slot in the com array, which stands for companions. ini underscore who is the currently acting, in this case, the currently acting companion. And slot 5 is which order they are subject to, if they're subject to any. And if that equals 4, they go to regroup. And as I said before, regroup works quite simply. There's a little explanation of what it involves, which I said at the beginning. I mean, not exactly the same words, but I explain what happens. And it turns out this is fairly easy to code. So we look at $com, and again, it's square bracket $I underscore who and square bracket 3, or it's $com $I underscore who something again. It was slot 5. This time we're looking at slot 3. Slot 3 is the position that the companion has, and if it's a positive number, it means that they're that many range bands ahead of the player character, and if it's a negative number, they're that many range bands behind the player character. So we look at, is com I underscore who 3 greater than 0? In other words, are they in position, let's say 1, 2, 3, etc.? If so, they want to move backwards, back towards the player character. So we give the message companion $I underscore who, so it'll say companion 1 or companion 2, moves toward player character, a couple of line breaks. And to do that, it's quite simple. We just reduce that slot in the array by 1, which is what minus minus means. And then we go to next action. So that's the first possibility. The second possibility, else if $com I underscore who 3 is less than 0, we give exactly the same message. And sorry, that should I'll fix that in the I'll fix this in the version that I upload to itch.io, but yeah, I forgot to have that line. If it's less than 0, again, they move towards the player character, but this time that means that we increase it by 1, and then we go to next action. Else, and the only time we'll get to here is if com I underscore who 3 is exactly equal to 0, because if it was over 0, this will trigger, and if it was under 0, this will trigger. So if it's exactly equal to 0, we go to companion default. And there they will behave exactly as if they were doing the default behavior, with a single exception, which is that if they choose an attack and they can't use that attack, instead of moving, which is what the default behavior is, you either move forwards or back depending on a random roll and your hit points. Essentially, if you've got high hit points, you'll tend to want to move forward, and low hit points, you'll tend to want to move back. Instead of that, and that is handled at companion space moves, sorry. Instead of moving, they'll just do nothing this action. So we end up with this, the range of the chosen attack, which is Z2, and we have $Y, which is the range or the distance of the closest enemy. I've already talked about how that works. That's what's done in this code. If Y is less than or equal to Z2, that means there's at least one enemy in range, so we go to companion target. And here we have some new code. So if that's not true, there's no one they can attack. Else if com I underscore who 5 is equal to 4, that's the one we're interested in, well, we have this new bit of code. Since there is no enemy in range, companion I underscore who, so companion 1 or companion 2 does nothing this action, and we go straight to next action. And then if neither of those things are the case, then the companion decides to move, which is down here, and that's the default behavior, and we've already talked about how that works. So that is the regroup order, and that means that we've done 2 out of 4 orders, and so we have 2 to go, and that's what we'll be doing in the videos to come. And then once we've done those, we'll have some extra things to do with weapons and having backup weapons and having a weapon that you're not wielding. Currently, we only have the weapon array, or $WEAPON array, which has a single weapon in it. But actually, the characters have two hands, so they can hold two one-handed weapons, and they can also have weapons sort of in their backpack or whatever, in a holster or on their belt or something like that, and they can swap between weapons. And so we haven't coded anything that relates to that yet. So sorry, I mean in the role-playing system, in the document that we're converting, they can have different weapons, and in our program we haven't done the code for that yet. So that's what we'll be doing once we've done the two remaining orders. But for now, I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.